All right, so welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be checking out Blake Snyder's Save the Cat. Writes a novel.
Oh, yeah, classic.
It's a good one. So this deep dive is going to be all about finding some of that really practical advice that he gives when it comes to screenwriting, especially when you're talking about writing really effective log lines and creating characters that sell.
He is really, really good at kind of the nuts and bolts of how to make a screenplay work.
The practicality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was totally hooked by his emphasis on the log line. You know, it's like, I knew it was important.
Yeah.
But like, he just like, I don't know, he just takes it to
a whole nother level.
Another level, yeah. He calls it the, what is it, test?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's brilliant.
It is. It's like that thing of when you're trying to figure out what to watch with your friends on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And if you can't explain it to them and make it sound good, they're not going to want to watch it.
Right. Yeah. Like, what is it?
Exactly. And it's the same thing with a movie. Like, when you're pitching it in Hollywood, they got to know what it is right away.
Right. Exactly. Okay. But there's got to be, so it's more than just a quick summary, right? Like, what are the things that you really need in a good log line?
Well, you need irony in there. You need a sense of the audience and the cost. You need a really clear sense of what the movie is promising. And then, of course, a killer title doesn't hurt either.
Okay.
A title that just grabs you right away.
I think one of the examples he uses is Four Christmases.
Yep. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. It's like, you know exactly what you're getting.
You know exactly what it is.
He calls it the say what it is test for the title.
Yeah. And then there's also Nuclear Family, which he co-wrote, which is, I think it's a great title because it has the word nuclear in it, which obviously makes you think of a traditional family.
Right.
But then it also has this connotation of like radioactivity.
Right.
Like there's something wrong, something dangerous.
Yeah.
And the movie was about a family that, you know, had powers and was messed up. So it's kind of ironic.
It is ironic.
It tells you what it is, but it also has that extra layer.
Yeah. Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you've got your log line.
Yeah.
But then he actually suggests that you like test market it.
Oh, yeah.
Like test it out with civilians.
With people that, just the average person on the street. And he has a great anecdote about talking to this guy at a car wash and pitching him a movie. And just based on the guy's reaction, he knew that the pitch was not working.
Yeah.
So it's just that simple. Like, just get it out there.
Right. Just try it out.
Try it out.
All right. So you've nailed your log line. Then we get into like the hero, the main character.
Yeah. He says a very interesting thing, which is that the hero serves the story. The story doesn't serve the hero.
Right.
And so you want a character that people are going to like, that they're going to be able to relate to, that's going to be compelling.
He talks about the primal urge.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what did you make of that?
Well, the primal urge has to be something that everybody can relate to, right? Like survival, like, you know, protection of loved ones, fear of death, those kinds of very basic things.
Yeah, like that story of the executive who's obsessed with polo.
Yeah.
You know, that's his world.
Yeah, that's all he cared about. And so that's like, Snyder pitched him a movie that had something to do with polo, and he was like, all right, I'm in.
Right.
But like, he had to understand like what that guy's world was.
Yes, and that makes me think about, you know, genre and theme, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to know like what those conventions are.
Right. And that way you can kind of deliver on the promise of the genre.
Yes.
But then you can also subvert it in interesting ways.
Right. He talks about the theme stated line.
Yeah.
Whereas like, you know, pretty early on in the movie.
Yeah, it's like the first 5 pages or something.
Yeah. It kind of hints at what that theme is going to be. Like in Blank Check, when the kid's brother's like, he who has the gold makes the rules.
Right. And that sets up the whole like question of like, well, is wealth really what brings you happiness?
Yes, exactly. So you got your log line, you've got your hero, you got the genre, you got the theme. And then we get into his kind of famous beat sheet.
Yeah.
It's like a roadmap for how to structure your story.
Like a checklist of moments that you got to hit to make the story work.
Right. And there's so many good ones.
Bar.
I mean, just to highlight a few, the Save the Cat beat, which is so classic. It's like you get the audience to like your hero
immediately
right away.
Yeah.
Like Aladdin when he gives the bread to the kids.
Even though he's stealing.
You know, he's a thief, but
you're rooting for him.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be this huge, like, you know.
What could be small? But it has to be something where you're like, okay, this guy's got a good heart.
Exactly, exactly. All right, now let's talk about some of the practical screenwriting tricks that
Oh, yeah, he's got a lot of good ones.
I mean, the Pope in the pool. That was the one that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Which is, like, how to bury exposition.
Yeah, you got to distract the audience. Like, put something really visually interesting on screen while you're telling them important information.
That's like hiding medicine in a treat or something.
Exactly. Yeah, like a spoonful of sugar.
Yeah. So the example I think he uses is the plot to kill the Pope.
Yeah.
You know, they're talking about the plot to kill the Pope.
Right.
But it's happening at the Vatican pool.
Yeah.
And the Pope is swimming laps.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to watch that?
And then he gives another example of a movie he co-wrote called Drips.
Yeah.
Where the bad guy's explaining his evil plan.
Right.
To steal all this oil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening in a room where there's like ballet dancer.
A ballerina, yeah.
Practicing.
Just twirling around.
Like so random, but so memorable.
So you remember what's going on, but you're also entertained.
Exactly. All right, so double mumbo jumbo. I feel like this one gets broken all the time.
Oh, yeah, all the time. This is the one about you can only have one piece of magic in a movie. Yeah. You can have aliens, vampires, but you can't have aliens and vampires. Right. Like, pick one.
And the example I think he uses is Signs.
Oh, yeah, Signs.
Where it's like, aliens in crop circles, that's pretty out there.
That's already, yeah.
But then you add in this whole thing about, you know, the main character's crisis of faith.
Right.
And it's just like...
It's too much.
You know,
like, aliens are here. I don't think we really care about your crisis of faith.
Right.
It's like a little tone deaf.
It just kind of muddles the story.
It then muddles the story, yeah.
Okay, and then there's too much marzipan, which is about keeping things simple.
Yeah, don't overcomplicate it.
Don't overcomplicate it.
And I think he uses the analogy of, like, if you have a dish and it has too many flavors in it, you can't even taste anything.
Right, it just tastes like mush.
Just tastes like mush, exactly. And he tells a funny story about working with his friend Howard, who would just keep adding more stuff to their idea.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, we got to take things out. We got to make it simpler.
Yes, it's like that Saturday Night Live sketch, I think it's Albert Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Where he creates this fake show.
Yeah.
It's called Black Vet.
Black Vet, yes.
And it's like about a veterinarian who was also like a black military vet.
Right.
And it's just like way too many things.
Way too many things.
Crammed into one.
I can't tell what it's about.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So Covenant of the Ark. This is all about transformation.
Yeah. The character has to change. Everybody has to change except the villain. The villain stays the same.
Right. And he has this great line, everybody arcs. Like every
character has a journey.
Even the minor characters. It's like
every character.
They matter.
Yeah. Even if it's just a small change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's got this really interesting lesson that he learned from Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
Keep the press out. What do you think that means?
I think he means, like, don't be so obvious.
Okay.
You know, don't have your characters explain everything.
Right.
Like, you know, in E.T., the government agent never says, I'm going to capture that alien and dissect it.
Right.
Like, you know he's going to do that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to say it.
It's all about the suspense.
It's the suspense.
You know? And he says, good dialogue should have subtext.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? Where it's not just what they're saying.
It's how they say.
But how they're saying it, yeah.
And what they're not saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, he also mentioned something about emotional range. Like even in a comedy.
Yeah.
There should be those moments of...
Yeah, you can't just have jokes the whole time.
Right.
It's got to have some heart.
Yeah.
And he uses the Farrelly brothers as an example. Right. Like, their comedies are outrageous, but they also have moments of real emotion.
Yeah.
Real fear, real vulnerability.
Okay. So one of the biggest challenges, I think, for any screenwriter is getting an agent.
Oh, yeah.
So Snyder actually gets personal here, and he shares a couple of stories about his own experiences.
Yeah.
So he says his first agent came from, like, pure ambition.
Yeah. He and his friends, they made a pilot, and they went all out promoting it. They were putting flyers up all over L.A., just trying to get anyone to watch it.
Yeah, hustle.
And it worked. They caught the eye of Bud Friedman, who owns the Improv.
Wow. Okay. And then his second agent, Hillary Wayne, he met at a bar.
At a bar, just by chance.
But you never know where opportunity is going to do.
You never know. You got to be open to it. He credits her with, like, launching his career.
Yeah. She was really good at selling his scripts.
Yeah.
And really positioning him as, like, a writer to watch in Hollywood?
I think one thing that I find inspiring is he says,
Yeah.
things change in the industry,
Yeah.
but the need for great stories
Never goes away.
and great storytellers, that never goes away.
Never goes away.
He really encourages writers to be bold, put themselves out there, keep networking.
Yeah.
And he gives some good tips.
He does.
Targeted outreach, referrals, industry events.
You got to go to the parties.
You got to go to parties.
Yeah.
And even he mentions IMDb Pro.
Yeah.
Ways that you can
connect with people.
Connect with people, yeah.
Yeah.
But he stresses that persistence.
No, absolutely.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a long game.
And speaking of the long game, he also shares some of his pitching experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Both the hits and the misses. Yeah. He's had his share of both.
Like specialty pitches?
Yeah. That's where you tailor the pitch to the person you're pitching to.
Right.
He's got a great story about pitching this idea to David Permute, who's a producer, and he loved it so much he flew him and his writing partner to New York the next day to pitch it to Howard Stern.
That's amazing.
That's what a good pitch can do.
Yeah.
And then there's David Kirshner, who is known for his really creative presentations. When he was pitching Leave It to Beaver to Universal, he brought in Barbara Billingsley to serve everybody milk and cookies.
That's brilliant.
Come on, how do you not buy that?
Who wouldn't remember that pitch?
Exactly.
All right, so before we get into the specifics of novel adaptation, let's talk about Snyder's closing remarks.
Yeah.
He uses that phrase, "It is what it is."
It is what it is.
What do you think he means by that?
Well, I think he's kind of reflecting on his career.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that there are going to be highs and lows, and you just got to keep going. You got to learn from your mistakes, and you got to stay positive.
Okay.
And I think he's also acknowledging that the film industry can be frustrating.
Yeah.
Trends come and go, and sometimes marketability trumps art.
Yeah, that's so true.
But he still encourages writers to be bullheaded,
right?
To keep fighting for their vision and never give up on their dreams.
So it's it is what it is, but also don't let it
stop you.
Yeah. And he really emphasizes that, success in Hollywood, it's a mix of things, right?
It's a lot of luck.
Yeah.
It's talent. It's hard work.
But he ultimately says that the magic of storytelling, it lies in the heart.
In the heart of the writer.
And passion of the writer.
Yeah, no matter what formulas you use or what tricks you learn, it's your voice. It's your perspective.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make your work stand out.
So what are your initial thoughts on all this?
Oh, man. I'm already seeing how this applies to my own writing.
Yeah.
It's not just about following a formula. It's about understanding the principles and then finding your own way to apply them.
That's great.
I'm definitely feeling inspired.
Okay, good. Well, and this is just the beginning, right?
Oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
So we got a lot more to uncover as we dive into the specifics of adapting novels for the screen.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So now let's get into the specifics of adapting novels, right?
Okay.
Because that's a whole other challenge. Taking a story from one medium and putting it into another. What are the things?
A novel versus a screenplay? They're different beasts, right?
Yeah, totally different.
So Snyder says that it's all about capturing the essence of that novel, but reimagining it for the screen.
You're not doing a word-for-word adaptation.
Well,
it's about understanding what the soul of the story is and then figuring out how to make that work as a movie.
So you got to be open to making changes, even cutting things out.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about being a slave to the source material.
No.
It's about serving the story.
You're serving the story. Yeah.
And he has this really cool method for approaching the adaptation process.
Yeah.
He says, you got to find the spine of the novel.
The spine.
That core theme that kind of drives the whole narrative.
That's the engine that's driving the whole thing.
Yeah. And so once you've identified that spine, you can kind of build the structure, your screenplay around it.
Yep, and you pick the scenes and the characters that support that theme.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like building a house. You got to have a strong foundation, and that spine is your foundation.
He also talks about understanding the primary conflict in the novel.
Yeah, that clash between the protagonist and the antagonist. Like, what's the main battle that's happening?
Right.
And you got to make sure that's front and center in your screenplay.
Even if it was, like, presented differently in the novel.
You got to make it work for the screen.
So it's like this balancing act, right?
It is.
Like staying true to the heart of the novel, but also making it work as a movie.
It's a sweet spot between faithfulness and creative license.
Now, one thing I always struggle with when I'm thinking about adaptation is like all those internal thoughts and backstory from the novel.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You know, which is crucial for understanding the characters. Yeah. But you can't just have them like talking about their past for 2 hours.
You can't just have a bunch of talking heads.
So what do you do?
Well, Snyder says you gotta find creative ways to bring that stuff to life visually.
Okay.
You know, through the dialogue, through the action.
Okay.
You can use flashbacks.
Right.
But you gotta do it in a way that's seamless.
Yeah, okay. So showing, not telling.
Showing, not telling.
Even when it comes to backstory.
Always.
And it's okay to like streamline the backstory.
Absolutely.
Condense certain parts of the novel.
Yeah, you don't have to cram everything in.
The example I think he uses is The Godfather.
Yeah.
Which the book is packed with details.
Oh, so much detail.
About the Corleone family and, you know, the history of the mafia.
Yeah.
But the movie really focuses on the key characters and their emotional journeys.
It's about picking the most important moments.
Okay.
And presenting them in a way that's engaging and true to the spirit of the book.
Okay, so we've talked about, like, adapting the story, handling those internal monologues. What about the characters themselves?
Yeah.
Like, how do you make sure that they...
Yeah, how do you translate them?
Translate, well, yeah.
Yeah.
From page to screen.
Well, he says you got to make sure that they're compelling.
Okay.
That they're relatable. Even if they're flawed,
okay,
even if they're kind of unconventional.
And focus on those, like primary motivations.
Yes.
You know, and how they change.
And their transformation.
Over the course of the story.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to those
core things.
Core elements.
Motivation.
Yeah.
And transformation.
So now let's circle back to something that we talked about earlier, which is finding an agent.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
It can be so daunting, especially
for new writers.
Yeah, so Snyder actually shares some really personal stories about his own experiences.
He does.
So he says his first agent came through, like sheer determination.
Yeah, he and his friends made a pilot, and they went all out to promote it. They were putting up flyers all over L.A., just trying to get anyone to watch it.
Wow.
And it worked. They caught the attention of Bud Friedman, who owns the Improv.
Wow.
So, like, you know, good for them.
Wow, that hustle.
Yeah, they hustled.
And then his second agent, Hilary Wayne.
Hilary Wayne.
He met at a bar by chance.
Just randomly.
So it's like you never know where those opportunities are going to be.
You got to be open to it.
Yeah, you got to be open to it.
Yeah.
And he credits her with, like, launching his career.
Yeah.
You know, she was great at selling his scripts and really positioning him in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think what I find inspiring is that he emphasizes that, you know, things change in the industry.
Oh, yeah. They change all the time.
But the need for good stories
never goes away.
And talented writers
never goes away.
Never goes away.
That's a constant.
He encourages writers to be bold, put themselves out there, keep networking. And he actually gives some, like, pretty practical tips.
He does.
For finding representation.
Yeah.
You know, targeted outreach, referrals, attending industry events.
Got to go to the parties.
You got to go to those parties.
Yeah.
And even he mentions IMDb Pro.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just ways that you can
connect with people.
Yeah. But he stresses persistence.
Oh, yeah. Persistence is key.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the long game, he also shares some of his pitching experiences.
He does.
Both successful.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
And not so successful.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about specialty pitches.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which is like tailoring your presentation.
Tailoring it to the person that you're pitching to.
Okay.
And he has this great story about pitching this idea to a producer named David Permute.
Okay.
And he loved it so much, he flew him and his writing partner to New York the next day to pitch it to Howard Stern.
That's amazing.
Like, that's what a good pitch can do.
Wow.
It can open doors.
So it's all about making that
connection.
Connection, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's David Kirshner.
David Kirshner, yeah. He's known for, like, his creative presentations.
Right.
Like, when he was pitching Leave It to Beaver to Universal, he brought Barbara Billingsley
no way
to serve milk and cookies.
Oh, my God.
How could you say no to that?
That's incredible.
It's genius.
That's brilliant. Who wouldn't remember that pitch?
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, so before we get into Snyder's closing thoughts, I want to kind of dig a little deeper into one of his key concepts, which is this idea of primal urges in storytelling.
That's a big one.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's really fascinating. He's basically saying that the most compelling stories tap into our very basic human needs and desires.
Okay.
Like survival, love, connection, purpose, even fear of death.
Okay.
Like these are things that we all experience, and they make for really powerful stories.
So it's like making sure that your character's goals are rooted in those primal urges.
It's what makes their journeys relatable.
Right, yeah.
It's what makes their struggles meaningful.
Yeah, like Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo,
Marlin's quest to find his son. That's driven by that primal urge.
To protect his child.
To protect his offspring?
Yeah.
It's universal.
Totally.
And even in comedies.
Yeah.
You see those primal urges at play.
Absolutely.
Like, think about Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
And then he's like, desire to be the perfect maid of honor.
Yeah.
That's driven by a need for connection.
Yeah.
And like a fear of being replaced.
Absolutely.
So it's those like underlying desires that give the story its weight.
And it makes the characters' actions feel real.
Right, right. Now, something that really resonated with me was Snyder's advice on finding your own unique voice.
Oh, yeah.
As a writer.
That's so important.
He, like, encourages writers to embrace their individuality.
Yeah.
And explore the stories that they're passionate about.
But, like, don't try to be the next Quentin Tarantino or the next Nora Ephron.
Yeah.
Be the first you.
Yeah.
Like, find what makes your perspective unique and then hone your craft to express that perspective.
And that actually kind of leads us into Snyder's closing thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, where he kind of reflects on his career and offers some final words of wisdom.
Yeah.
What stuck with you from that section?
I think he really emphasizes that balance of, like, realism and encouragement. You know, he reminds us that the industry can be really tough.
Yeah.
And, you know, they prioritize trends and marketability over artistic vision.
Yes, hard.
And that can be disheartening.
It is.
But he doesn't leave us there.
Okay.
You know, he urges writers to embrace their bullheadedness.
Okay.
To fight for their vision and to never give up on their dreams.
Yeah, I love that.
It's that reminder that passion and perseverance, I mean, those are key
so important,
in this business.
Absolutely.
And he also stresses the importance of, like, finding joy in the process itself.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in the pursuit of success.
Yeah.
But the real reward is in the act of creating.
That's a good point.
You know, it's easy to lose sight of that when you're dealing with rejections and setbacks.
Totally.
But, you know, Snyder's reminding us that even amidst all the chaos and the uncertainty of it all, we got to remember why we started writing in the first place.
Yeah.
Because we love it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to one of Snyder's core concepts that we haven't really discussed in detail, which is this idea that successful screenwriting is like a blend of art and craft.
Oh, yeah.
What did you make of that?
Well, it really resonated with me. He's basically saying it's not enough to just have raw talent or a great idea. You need to understand the mechanics of storytelling, the structure, the techniques, the things that make a story actually work.
But it's not just about following a formula, right?
No, it's about taking those tools and using them to express your own unique voice and vision.
So it's like learning the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So that you can then bend them.
Bend them, break them.
Yeah, and create something new and exciting. And I think that's what makes Snyder's work so valuable.
Okay.
He gives you the tools, but he also encourages you to find your own path.
Right.
To experiment, to break the mold.
So what are your final thoughts on the Snyder's legacy? I mean, it's incredible to think that even though he's no longer with us, his work continues to inspire and guide writers all over the world.
Yeah.
And, his books have become like essential resources.
Yeah.
They offer that practical advice and a deep understanding of how stories actually work.
And he was known for, like, his generosity, his willingness to share his knowledge.
Absolutely. He was a champion
for writers.
He really was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think what makes his work so enduring is that it reminds us that at the heart of every great story is that human connection.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into those universal emotions and experiences that unite us all.
That's beautifully said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you have it.
There you have it.
A deep dive into Blake Snyder's Save the Cat. Writes a novel.
We did it.
We did it. We explored his practical advice, his witty insights, and his really inspiring message about the power of storytelling.
Yeah, hopefully.
And hopefully this deep dive
I gave you some new ideas.
Has given you a fresh perspective on your own writing.
Yeah.
And maybe even inspired you to, revisit Snyder's work.
Yeah, go back and read it.
A new set of eyes, yeah.
With fresh eyes.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll be watching your blockbuster screenplay.
Ah, wouldn't that be great?
Or reading your best-selling novel.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
That's it for us, folks.
See ya.